Zoning and Emergency Services Committee of the Livingston County Board. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Patrick.
Second.
Second by Steve. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes. Motion by Mike.
I will second
Second by
that.
Patrick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, committee review of Livingston County zoning case ZM 118 NAP.
I did email you some information yesterday, and I've copied it and given that information to you, plus more. What this zoning case is a proposal to change the classification on some property just to the east of February along Route 24 from its agricultural classification to a C3 business classification. What I did fail to include with you is a plat of survey that shows you the actual size of the property. So this would be a good idea as to the 2-acre parcel, being a 295.16 square parcel of land. This property is located directly to the east of the existing February Fastener property, which was rezoned C3 a number of years ago, across the road from PTC, which is zoned industrial, been there for a number of years. Both PTC and February Fastener have been annexed into the city of February because of water being supplied to both of them, sewer being supplied to PTC. There's always an option that this property could eventually be annexed into the city if services are provided, and there's agreement between the owners and then to do that. The owner at this particular time he has a truck repair business, and he's wanting to relocate it to this facility, so it has a better location in regards to that. So that's why he's seeking to change the classification on the property. I did add to the report or the listed uses within the agricultural district plus the commercial districts build on each other. So all these permitted in C1 are permitted in C2, and all permitted in C1, C2 are permitted in C3. In this case, a truck repair business is located within that. He's seeking the rezoning to allow for that use of the property, plus is always allowing it for options to, being zoned commercial, being maybe marketable decades down the road, when you may want to market the property to somebody else. This is being a zoning map amendment. It was reviewed by the Regional Planning Commission on June the 4th. They recognize that this property is, number one, close to the existing commercial industrial area. Plus, when we did the comprehensive plan, we kind of introduced Route 24 between February and 4th kind of being a potential commercial industrial development area going along that area, because there's a lot of it already there or close to being there. We had the public hearing held by the Zoning Board of Appeals on June 7th. They're making a recommendation this be approved to you. I gave a copy of the findings of fact decision as part of the report to you to go along with this. So they've also made a recommendation to you as a whole to review this. At the public hearing, the applicant, Mr. Knapp, was the primary person that spoke in regards to this. Nobody has come to any of the meetings to give any dissent in regards to ERV, so it's all been people in favor of this particular zone case in regards to that. So the zone case is adjoining to just an expansion of an existing commercial district. It can't fit in with the zoning map amendment without too much difficulty. Now, who is the applicant, is here today, so if you have any questions of him, he is present this evening. Any questions you may have?
Do I understand you right, there were no objections?
There was no objections.
Mr. Knapp, do you have anything to say?
No, I really don't.
And there's no water and sewer there yet. It's to the adjoining property to the west.
Okay. There is a well on the adjoining property that he may use, the existing well that's on the adjoining property. So. But the public water supply is just to the west of it, to answer your question.
Motion by Mike Engels
I'll second
to
that.
approve.
To approve.
And this would go then to the county board.
Correct, yes.
Second by Patrick. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the county board.
Thank you.
committee review of solar energy special use applications, SU 218 Freshmans and 318, my comment? This comment?
Both of these were proposed by the same company, which is Cypress Creek. You've been notified over the last several months of these. You actually had the application packets in regards to these. Prior months, so you have an idea as to what the application looked like and where these are being proposed to go. They have proceeded through the zoning board of appeals process. In what you've given your email before you now are some documents that were ultimately approved by the part of the record for the zoning board of appeals, and they give you an outline of the materials that were handed to reviewed by the zoning board of appeals in regards to both the Thrushman and the immediate comments, solar special use requests in regards to them. In regards to what you received, everything under the first initial submission area, those are the documents that you received in great detail in regards to that. After that, you received some of them, but not all the documents in regards to exhibits 2A through, or all the remaining documents, put it that way. There was some discussion at the zoning board by the zoning board of appeals that concentrated on two issues. Number one as to how solar farms could affect property values in the area, and the second one had to deal with decommissioning. If you look at this, there's a couple different documents that were submitted in regards to the property values. Those are the Cohn-Resnick reports in regards to that. And then secondly, there was at the bottom of the first page, under Exhibit 2A, there's a decommissioning estimate, and then there's some updated decommissioning plans that went along with that. So they actually came up with a plan that gave decommissioning and the costs that go with that, and to move forward with that. You see that reflected in the conditions that are part of this report. The conditions are part of the approval or the recommendation by the zoning board of appeals to forward this to you as the county board. The conditions were drafted by me, so just to kind of let you know, I did the initial draft on them, so those are the ones that are there. The decommissioning one specifically comes into play under condition number 9, in that there was not a figure that was put into that originally. There's some financial surety mentioned within our regulations in order to do that, and through the decommissioning information that's presented within the decommissioning report, plus the zoning board of appeals requested some further information as kind of a worst case scenario as to how much it would cost if this went bad, in a year, and they had no option but to landfill all the solar panels. So they asked for a cost of, basically a per ton cost to put those solar panels on landfill. And with the decommissioning report and with that cost, they ended up with $135,000 value is what it comes to. So it kind of became a worst case scenario in regards to that. Prior to these conditions being discussed at the meeting, or not prior to, but when these discussions were discussed at the zoning board of appeals meeting, the applicant had not seen these conditions because it was new to everybody at that particular time. At the meeting, they did discuss, they had some concerns as far as marketing the project, as far as some of the wording on some of the conditions in regards to that. And they did mention that at the meeting in regards to that, and at that time we'd already closed the discussion on the zoning case. And moving forward with it, to do it, and they did talk with me after the case as far as some of the wording on these, so you could take these verbally as they are. The conditions, number 1, are identical on both of them, the exception on the my comment one. If you look at the last condition on that one, there is a 14th condition added to that one, in that this one addresses evergreen vegetative area is proposed for the project. This is an optional issue that's put within our zoning regulations regarding solar farms. And I'm the one that proposed this. The reason for that, the reason for the vegetative barrier hedge is number one, we do with like landfills and stone quarries, so it's kind of been used in the past. And this has been discussed with some of the solar farm companies. If you're gonna put these along high traffic areas, you know, is there a desire at least to shield it or screen it from some degree along high travel areas so that it's there. That's what was put in there. It is optional. I'm the one that put it in there. That's the reason why that was added in regards to that. So that's the only differencing variation in regards to these, other than the use of the number that went in with that. The two conditions that the applicant had concerns about were numbers 8 and number 12. The potential, there's no desire to get rid of the conditions. Let's start there. The conditions would be left in. If we could start with number 12, because it's easier to address, is that they simply want the word reasonably added at the end of the first line. So the word during the term of special use decommissioning period for the project, the county reasonably retains. What this reflects, part of this language comes from some of the wind energy conditions we had. I guess the scenario that I put out in regards to this particular one was if there is a discussion in regards to drainage tiles, and if somebody's drainage, if they're in the construction of this, they're going to take precautions to prevent them from damaging any field tiles or repairing them. If something would be hit and affected by that, then there may be a need to bring in a consultant, such as a drainage tile consultant, and say, okay, you know, just see what's going on and take it. Now, there would be comments going back and forth with the company in order to do this. This isn't going to come out. The intent is to discuss it with them and have them, you know, it's not blindsiding anybody in order to do that, just to have that in there. So they just want any reasonable issues to kind of be discussed in regards to that. So it's adding the word reasonably to that. Going back to condition number 8, which is basically the same to a large degree in that the language gets reshuffled in that the status of the review of the solar reviewed, that moves up to the front instead of in the middle. So instead of reading that the zoning case be reviewed by the Lewis County Zoning Board of Appeals in 1 year to review the status of the start of the special use, unless otherwise determined by the Lewis County Zoning Administrator. Now this is, number 1, is kind of a common condition that the Zoning Board of Appeals uses. We've used it in special uses from the recent craft brewery that was proposed and stuff like that. In this particular case, with the solar farms, they do need some state improvement to move forward with that. So if this particular one is not approved in regards to the state, in regards to this, then we kind of want to know what the status is. You know, is it going to be approved and built another year? Are they going back to the state the next round to have it approved at that particular time? Or it's kind of important in order to do that. If you look at the sheet I just handed out to you with the modified language, is that this is adding the, basically as a last clause, that although no such review, but although the status of validity of the special use permit as proposed and approved. Again, the company is seeking to market this property, so they're wanting to make sure that the people that they're talking to is assured that we're not going back into a public hearing to open this thing up and start all over again with what matters. So.
And they're in competition with others because the comment is not going to be okay in every one of them. So they don't want anything in there that would maybe stop them from moving forward. And the reason they were concerned about kind of hidden costs that might come up, that because the county doesn't want to bear any of that expense, so they would be bearing an expense, and they didn't are concerned about make sure that it's a worthwhile concern that they're. In the Threshermans, they also, if you see in the drawing, they they've moved where there's a pipeline on, would be the northwest corner of the property. So they've moved away from that with their development. They also included a group of evergreens, or a line of evergreens along the south line of the property, because a person living to the south had concern about being able to see that. I just drove by there just now, and it'd be very difficult to see that solar farm, but they've already got it in the plan. They're planning on doing it, so I suggest we just let them go ahead and do it.
Before I forget, at the back of this information I gave to you is also the report from the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, where they're also making a recommendation that both of these zoning cases be approved. And what they did is they went ahead and went through at the back of the comprehensive plan is basically a checklist of issues to go through. And the last few pages of that document, or the entire document you have, is those checklist questions plus the answers that are typed out underneath them, so you have a better idea as to, that's how the planning commission did review that and go through that. So the planning commission did review both of them, went through the checklist as far as their thoughts in regards to that checklist and making a recommendation to you.
As far as property value, they went through quite extensive list of homes that they compared to in areas around solar farms, and there was virtually no decrease in value with those homes. So the ZBA was okay with what was proposed as far as property values. In fact, one large home even gained in value, and I want to make sure that was a realistic number, and she assured us that it was.
Chuck, just a quick question for you. I know the state has already made their awards of who gets the solar farm permission for this year,
I
haven't
think
they?
that's gonna come later in the summer, early fall, I believe.
Okay, so it hasn't been made totally for this year yet?
Correct, correct.
And they'll do it late summer every year?
That's up to them, I'm not sure how they're
But
gonna do that.
they-
They have a pot of money that goes towards this, and that's how they distribute that, so.
Okay. But does like Thresherman's already have permission?
No.
So they've got to go through the
They
same
need-
process?
Thresholds is part of this, and they need county approval for the special use to be part of, to get in the pot for them to get.
Okay. That's part of the
Yeah,
application
part
to the
of
state
their
then?
application to the state.
Gotcha.
Yep,
So neither one of these have approved.
that's correct.
These are just going through the
Going
hoops.
through the hoops, going through the process.
And hopefully, they hope to get selected, or one of them, or two of them.
That's correct. Just a little bit of detail, just to cover issues. When we initially started this, since solar farms are kind of new, there were some neighbors that did come more as to curiosity as to what was going on. When we got to the actual part of the public hearing with the zoning board of appeals, none of them spoke. They did come to a couple of meetings, but they didn't actually speak when we got to that part. So the testimony revolved around the applicant and their experts that came there. With the Thrushman's project, Dee Woodburn, who's one of the property owners, along with her husband in this case, did bring somebody from Pheasants Forever in regards to the ground cover, in regards to that, as far as being a pollinator, seeking a pollinator ground cover in order to go to that. So those were basically the people that spoke to it. In both cases, the representative from the Saltwater Conservation District did come and speak. I think I gave a copy of that entire report to you at a previous meeting, so you've seen that report in regards to that. So.
I've got a couple of things. The barrier will be evergreens, vegetation of some type. No mound, will be on flat ground, or we're gonna have?
No, it'll be on
all
flat ground.
Okay, and then they will maintain that. We've got rules
Yes.
and regulations for them to maintain that.
Yes. They've
Contacts.
agreed to 6 times a year come and maintain it.
Yes.
Also, they're putting in a vegetation that won't get any higher than the lowest part of the solar panel.
Okay, and then most farmsteads have got drainage maps, that have been
They
some that
provide-
have been updated, so they've got access to all that.
They either have access to it, or they're going to consult with everybody and create a drainage map. And these two zoning cases, they're gonna go back and they'll create a drainage map in order to do
As
that.
far as the tile and
As
everything.
far as the tiles that in regards to that, to avoid it. Now, the little bit of the wording on that last one, reverse vegetative buffer, you normally would think it being along the road. But in this particular case, since they're gonna be setting the solar farm back off the road a distance, it's, the wording allows it to be anywhere from the edge of the road back to the edge of the solar farm area as to where it's placed, so that in case there's enough room up front to plant, a few rows of row crops, and it allows that ability to be there without the,
Chuck mentioned that there was a couple people that came concerned about it. Both farms have addressed their concern. One was the vegetation along the south side. The other was the guy has a home to the west of the solar farm property, and they're going to
Thresherman's.
Well, the Freshman's going to be on the south side because it's out in boonies. And my comment is over by Route 17, and there the property to the west is could see very plainly the solar farm, so they're going to put trees along that side to block it.
The number of the decommission is 135,000. That was scrap. That's to.
It's more than scrap. It's more than scrap.
I mean, take it down.
It's taking it
and
down
dispose
and
of it.
disposing of it. Kind of worst case scenario.
Comment was made, we don't want the county.
And then they leave the ground like they found it.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, so once all that's gone, somebody can go back and farm that if they want to.
Yes.
That's the intention. Yes.
The only concrete there would be where the transformer is. There'd be a pad there for it, and that's it, sits in the center of the property on both cases.
The poles will be pile driven or screwed in
And remove.
and removed. But there's value in it. That's metal. There's value in that. So
Yeah.
Why is there no concrete?
the only concrete is for the transformer inverter.
Because nothing lasts forever. As we know, we don't have an eyesore and.
And it's just a pad. It's not like a deep.
And you don't want to get in the recycling business, you know.
Yeah.
And this money is really to back up the farmer, because their agreement is with the farmer to dismantle it, take it down, put it back the way it was, and the county is just protecting the farmer itself with this money.
Though I don't want to reopen this for any hearing, but there is a representative from Sutter Street here today too, so they're here, they're interested in that too, but don't really want to get into any testimony or anything like that. So.
Sure. Happy to answer any questions that, should they come up, though. Thank you.
I had Chuck put together a motion, which I can read, or one of you can read. Mikey? I put a little mark there, black,
That's not,
Huh?
I gave options. It's just
the
a
one on the bottom?
The one next to the bottom. Option number 6 there.
A, B, and
It's
C.
it's got 2 pictures and less words.
Yeah, that's right.
I would make the motion that the Agriculture Zoning Emergency Services Committee recommended to the county board that the zoning case SU-2-18 Threshold Solar be approved, concurring with the recommendation of the zoning board of appeals, including the conditions attached to the board of appeals recommendation as modified by this committee.
I second.
Do you want to read a second, or?
No, I'll second. I'll second. The
Motion by
motion
Mike, second by
was
Pepper.
SU 2-18. I second that.
Yeah.
Good.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
That's for both?
That was for
We're
both.
gonna read again.
I think it's intended to be
It only mentions threshold.
Okay, let's go,
Students out.
let's go it again. Do you want to
What's that number?
Issue
That's
3.
issue 318.
318.
We don't want them coming back and saying you misread stuff.
Right.
Motion, the Azes Zoning and Emergency Service Committee recommended to the Livingston County Board that the county zoning case SU 3-18, my comment, be approved concurring with the recommendation of the zoning board of appeals, including the conditions attached to the zoning board of appeals recommendation as modified by this committee.
I second that.
Secretary Patrick, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Committee review of livestock management facilities regulations. Diefenbaugh?
Wanted to just start something here.
Pardon?
I mean, apparently that's what most of you were interested in, I guess.
Right.
I guess we need to have one thing clarified in that there was an article in Times the other day that regards to that the state of Illinois had already issued their permit for that, but in reviewing the Department of Ag's website in regards to this, they say the permit's still pending. So can we have some clarification as to pending or approved or where we're at on that, or?
I was given a verbal approval of that. I have no.
You want to introduce yourself? So
Kevin
people-
Duffenbaugh.
Okay. And you are the person that's proposing to
Yes.
put this on there? So they haven't given you any written approval?
No, I do
on
not
it?
have a paper yet.
And just before I forget the question, I know something's been raised, and probably may come up later today, but it has to do with the water, the amount of water in the area. I mean, what's your viewpoints as far as there being an adequate amount of water in the area to handle 24 head of hogs?
Have you done any testing?
We have not drilled any
He
wells
said
yet.
24.
2,400.
2400.
There's a difference.
We're talking about a facility for 2,400 hogs.
Yes.
So have you,
He said he didn't do any testing for water.
I mean, are you gonna do that before you commit?
What's that?
Are you gonna do
The
that?
state does require that?
I mean, we'll have a well before a building, yeah.
Okay.
I guess the concern that we've had in the past is what effect does that have on surrounding wells? Because you can draw down water enough that it affects your neighbor's well, so they don't have any water.
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, but you could ask Nick behind you there.
I couldn't understand.
That's somebody behind you.
She said you could ask Nick behind you.
If I can help explain that for the committee if you'd like.
Go for it.
So in the past,
We need your name.
Nick Anderson, Illinois Livestock Development Group. So in the past, I think there was an issue with wells, and the Department of Agriculture came out and required a pressure test. That location of that that other household from that farm was in a much closer proximity than this location. So each well is separate, but that pressure drawdown test passed, and that well did not affect that other farm in that previous case. So when they go to dig that well, the well digger will take a gallons per minute and come up with a volume. When you look at cones of depression of wells, if they can't find enough water in that dig to meet that requirement of what those needs are going to be, they have a couple other choices. Typically, well drillers will move another 1,000 yards or 300 feet to see if they find another well source. So that cone of depression is typically in a 300 to 1,000 foot range. And if you think about annual rainfall events and how surface water goes off the ground, but water that percolates through the soil to that water table that they pull from, we're talking about 27,000 gallons an inch on that area around that farm that contribute to that groundwater that they pull from. So that well investigation, they'll find out real quick what kind of water is there. The impact is a very small circle that affects other folks, but like in the previous case, the Department of Agriculture had the opportunity to request further investigation on, and they ran those pumping tests, and it was conclusive that that farm did not affect that neighbor. That neighbor was right at the quarter-mile setback from that farm.
I think there was one at a quarter and one at a mile.
Right, I think it was only required on one of the locations. And they had a shallow well of 50 feet, and the farm actually had a well, if my memory serves me right, in the 300-foot range. And it did not affect their well capacity.
Where was this located at?
The one at that time,
Yes, that you had.
south of Solomon.
Yeah, right. There's the Illinois Water Survey has well histories throughout their area. They're not complete, and it shows water tables, and you can go to the Illinois Water Survey and pull down an interactive map, and they will have a history of well depths and volumes. Now, some of them are old that they just hit water, but typically rural developments that don't have animals or consumption that they need large amounts of water, typically they dig till they find water that's adequate for the house. Typically that's anywhere from 50 to 75 feet. There is another water table deeper than that most agricultural people that pull larger volumes of water go down to that additional depth, additional cost to go get that water. Two different impacts of water consumption. I would rely, if you need more information, the Illinois Water Survey is a great source, geological survey, interactive maps there. I have the same problem when we look at locations. Gosh, it looks like there's a lot of water there, and there's not. Or there's no water there, and there are. Water is a strange thing that happens out there. Springs, lots of things happen. So really, the best information is individual site investigation that a well driller will put forth, and they're in that process.
So let's just say we found water. What goes in has to go out. So how are we getting rid of everything that goes out of 2,400 head of hogs?
Right, it'll be stored in a pit underneath the building, and once a year, where as needed, will be pumped out and applied to crop ground.
As for
On top or knifed in?
Knifed in.
Knifed in. And how many gallon do you propose that would be in a year, if you only do this once a year?
I believe that's roughly 720,000 gallon a year is what this shed should produce.
In the plans with the Department of Agriculture, there is a volume capacity of that pit that they qualify to meet that standard. The farm is required to have at least 6 months storage to get from season to season. They're going to exceed that requirement by having more storage. The law states that you would apply that agronomically to the crop you're growing. So they have access to over 250 acres of ground to apply that agronomically.
Well, I don't know, do we, as a committee, have any authority to approve or disapprove, or?
No,
I think the Department
I
of
don't
Ag.
think we do.
this is pretty much.
John, if I understand this right, I'm new to the committee. The county really doesn't have the right of approval or denial. About the only thing that the county can do is request hearings, and from those hearings, the information, the recommendation, whatever, goes to the state. Is that true?
Partially true.
Okay.
It's true in
Let's
that,
make it totally true.
it's true if there's a certain threshold of the number of animals that can be placed on the property would trigger a need for a public hearing. In this particular case, they're keeping that threshold just under those regulations. I think it's 1,000 animal units.
Correct.
creates the need for a public hearing. In this particular case, they're asking for 980 animal units or whatever the case may be.
960.
I heard 24.
960.
I can explain,
Finish
We have the possibility of putting 2,400 head in
You're
there.
gonna finish 24.
I could
The
explain.
animal units are based on weights and size going in. I understand what you're saying.
So there's a
Okay, so
possibility.
2,400 is less than 900.
If you figure animal units.
2,400.
There-
less than that.
Only the state of Illinois can do that kind of thing.
No,
It's
you're
right
not,
here.
you're gonna produce that,
I
right?
What's that?
You're gonna
Do I-
produce
do-
2,400, you're not always gonna have 2,400.
2,400 animals creates 960 animal
Yeah.
units.
Now that's summer in and go to the
Because,
slaughterhouse.
because one hog is actually equivalent to 0.4 in Illinois' eyes,
Yeah.
so.
I'm more than familiar when these regulations were taken away from the county and put to the state.
Yeah.
Years ago, it was a case of McDonough County.
I could explain it further if you want better.
Oh, no, I'm totally familiar.
With the animal unit calculation.
No, it's
But that
insane.
magic number is under 1,000,
I understand.
and that's how,
Ducks has 15,000.
I'm sorry?
If it's ducks, it's 15,000.
yeah.
Equals 500.
It's all about the control leaving the locals and going to the state.
And I'm sorry, if I could seek some guidance here, I'm not sure at what point, you know.
You wanna
anyone
introduce
would-
yourself?
Sure, my name is Crystal Middleton. I'm a resident of Blackstone. We do come with over 200 signatures of concerned citizens of Blackstone and Livingston County petitioning the production or the installation of this hog farm. I know you can only envision spending an evening or a day doing something that you enjoy, and then having that taken away from you. The simple things in life that you think that any human should be entitled to, such as clean air and clean water, is threatening to be taken away from our community. This gentleman just said a few moments ago himself, you have anything that sits on top of soil percolating down into the ground, that's going to contaminate wells. I would like to know how far out they go, because we do have a shortage of water in Blackstone. And how far out do they test that? Just because a place 50 miles away, it didn't affect someone a half a mile from the establishment, doesn't mean that it isn't gonna affect someone that lives, 3 miles away from this establishment. Hog manure produces so many harmful chemicals, to our air, to our breathing, our respiratory, just our mental health. We can show you studies that have been done where it does affect it. This hog manure produces a black foam that can spontaneously combust, and scientists don't even know why it does this. The lagoons or the pits that he's talking about holding this manure, it can be capable of holding like 45 million gallons of this urine, waste, the wastewater. Most other states in the United States do have stricter regulations that they hold hog farms accountable to. And I think that, just because Illinois hasn't in the past doesn't mean that we can't now. Things can change. Things are changing, and now's the time that we need to, consider making those changes. I'm grateful for the opportunity that we have to come here to speak to you, that you're attentive and that you listen to our concerns. I do believe that each one of you holds some sort of key to information to making a change and making a difference for this, because this affects all of us. And we can produce those signatures now, if you like.
I just got a question. And I don't want to get into a debate, but my thinking might be different than some of the rest of you. But when you choose to live out in the country side, you're living in an agricultural environment. I mean, that's what it is, agriculture. And hogs, used to be hogs around every farm. Maybe not to the, maybe not to the, maybe not to the, but if you can't raise hogs in town. Where are people to raise hogs if they don't raise them
Put them
in the
out
country?
around houses or
near
out in
Let me
space.
interject for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm her husband, Dale Middleton's my name. I built my house in the year 2000, okay? It's planted smack in the middle of a quarter section that our family owns, okay? We farm as well. I farm 1,000 acres. I work a full-time job plus, okay? And farm in my spare time. Neither one of them will debate that, okay? I live 1¼ miles exactly east and a little bit north of this farm. Everybody in this room knows what the prevailing winds are. I don't want to smell it. I work like a maniac, my wife does, my children do, we all work. I don't want to come home and smell it, and I brought that to both of you. And neither one of you want to hear it. Okay, but the point is, I built that house 18 years ago. We own that land, there ain't a hog farm near there. That's why I built that house at that point. If they want the hog farm, build it in their backyard. It's not mine.
And I can certainly appreciate and understand what you're saying. You know, if we own land or you own land, don't you have the right to do what you want with that land? I can appreciate that. The difference, I guess, my perspective is what I'm doing on my land is not harming my neighbor.
Exactly. We
And
sit
what
here
they're
and listen
proposing
to
to do
everything that, and I'm not debating anything that you guys had previously, but we sit here and listen to everything that they gotta do to build a solar farm. For heaven's sakes, what could that possibly hurt? And I hope everybody in this room tends to agree with me. What could that possibly hurt? But we're talking about they gotta plant trees, they gotta fix tile.
And those-
What do they have to do to build a hog farm that without a doubt nobody in this room is going to debate the fact that it's going to change our way of life? I can no longer go in my backyard and enjoy my swimming pool because I have to smell hog manure every day. They don't have to debate a bit of it, but these other people gotta come in here and give you everything under the sun to let them build a solar farm, for heaven's sake.
Because, like you said, a lot of this is taken away from the county and it's.
Here's a young lady down here who wants to speak. Would you state your name, please?
I'm Danielle Middleton, I'm their daughter.
Okay.
I don't work a full-time job like them, so I've been taking most of the phone calls, reaching out, and majority of the time I've spoken to Doug Owens, who is the head of the zoning, for my understanding. And today he told me, I said, so if there's any advice that I can take away, or any positive things that would ever come out of this hog farm, what would it be? And he said, he just laughed at me. He didn't even have an answer. He said, well, I guess it'll bring a few more jobs to the community. That's all.
You live where?
Doug Owens. I live in Blackstone, it's not even 1.25 miles.
Okay, thank you.
Northeast.
Just Doug Owens is with the Illinois Department of Agriculture, correct? That's-
Correct.
that's it.
And I've also spoken to Doug, Eric Behrens, and he said, anybody can get a hog farm permit. You have 8 rules that you need to follow, and they won't do anything for us, and you guys can't really control it, so that's why Illinois is the #4 hog producer in America.
You
And
had a response?
I just wanted to point out one thing. Each hog produces their own waste, and approximately what I searched on credible sources, he would produce about 1.138 million gallons of waste in a year. And I could be wrong, and I'm not discrediting you at all, but that's just what I found through my research, and I have many other statistics that I can share if you
And
want.
also, as far as the water usage, actually the equivalent of what he'll use is what will take away from 45 homes in a local area.
I can address that. So that water consumption, those pigs come in at 12 pounds and they will leave there at 280 pounds. Little pigs won't drink much, big pigs might drink 5 to 6 gallons a day. The average water consumption per head, on an average, is 1.5 gallons a day. If you look at the consuming public, whether it's Pontiac or Blackstone, the average person in the United States uses about 100 gallons of water for bathing, dishes, drinking. These animals are using it for drinking. The waste is expelled and captured, and I'll take note that they will produce some 750,000 gallons, not 45 million on
I
an
didn't
annual
say
basis.
45 million.
I think the other lady quoted 45 million. I don't know where that number came from. That that manure will be applied agronomically, incorporated into the soil profile, much like commercial fertilizer is. So the risk of that getting into our groundwater, we're really wanting to take it off the surface. That's where most contamination comes. When we bind N, P, and K to soil particles, our goal is to keep it there for the crop. So we can grow bigger bushels of corn, more soybeans that we feed back to those animals. So if we were losing that nutrient, we couldn't grow the crops that we do using commercial fertilizer or animal manure as a nutrient. Farmers in this county are very proactive in utilizing those resources and capturing those so they don't get off the field and the crop takes them. And some really good programs out there through soil and water conservation. Farmers have to use that for generations, and I think every farmer is conscious of what they use on their ground, whether it's commercial fertilizer. Some say hog manure is better or not. It's sure a debate, but we're fertilizing that ground. Farmers are using fertilizer the same way the hog farm is, judiciously and respectfully, and there are additional rules when you apply manure that are regulated not by the Department of Agriculture, but by the Environmental Protection Agency. If there are challenges with odor or contamination or runoff, or we are a zero discharge industry in livestock. Grain production is not. So we have to abide by those rules on top of what the Department of Agriculture has. The other topic that was said, Illinois has the most stringent rules in the country for livestock production. We have the largest setbacks than any state around us in pork production. A quarter-mile setback from any residence. In Indiana, it's 400 feet, and in Iowa, it's 600 feet. We have stricter regulations. The process that the department goes through is the building, the design, the water stops, the reinforcement, the concrete, the protection of that storage facility so it doesn't affect the environment of leaching or those types of things. So there is a rigorous process that they have to go through to meet that design requirements of the Act. So it takes that design requirement out of the county's process that has to do that.
So the amount that I mentioned, that is not just manure. That's manure, urine, that is the water they drink. That's the water that they're hosing them off with.
They produce about 750,000 gallons a year. That's what they're going to produce. That's what they can hold.
And I can hold you accountable to that.
That's the design requirements of that dimension. I don't know them exactly. I don't have it in front of me.
It'll actually hold more than that. That's what they should produce a year, is that 720, 750,000. The pit will hold 980,000. So we're overbuilding it.
So how many gallons is that per acre that you plan to spread the manure?
It's all due to an analysis. I mean, it depends on how much N, P, and K is in that manure.
So how many acres of land do you own that you're spreading this manure on?
Do you own? Do you own?
Does it matter?
Does it matter who owns what?
He's got a contract to sell it already.
Okay, that's
He has a contract to sell
Do
it.
you own any ground?
You mentioned the EPA.
He has a contract.
You mentioned the EPA.
Yeah, he has a contract to,
Everybody's talking now at the same time. Okay, you were discussing something with the lady down there. Would you continue?
I
Would you
apologize.
please stay out of it for a minute?
What was your question?
No, he answered it. He said you had a contract to sell the manure, and so that answered my question. I was just wondering how you were going to dispose of that much. Thank you.
Didn't you have a question, Diane?
Will it be trucked out? Do you own ground?
No, it'll be pumped out directly to the field.
I'm Ann Dettenbaugh, and I just asked, Kevin, do you own any ground?
No? Do I need to?
If you're putting up a hop shed, I would think you would need to.
for what reason?
Yeah.
Well, the bunch of us that are here to disagree on land.
What's that?
The bunch of us that are here to disagree on
But if he
land.
gives me permission, can I do it?
Ma'am, Mrs. Doffenbaugh, if I understood correctly, the product is that he would sell it to surrounding farmers and inject it into their fields as fertilizer. it wouldn't have to go, wouldn't go into his fields, or at least that's my experience with other pig farmers, is that they inject it into the neighbors' fields, and they charge them for it.
Anyone locally that didn't want it, it would be foolish. It's better than commercial fertilizer.
And it doesn't smell?
Oh, it's gonna be injected.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
I wanna know
smell.
how this is gonna
And
affect my
injections,
property
too.
value.
They will be.
If I decided I wanted to sell my house and people come out to look at the house and then catch wind of a pig farm.
It's my understanding, anything within a 15-mile radius, property values do go down, taxes will decrease.
I've already done that.
If I could address the, I think you've got a couple of good examples in this county, but especially the permit, the issue on that, where they did the water testing, those two farms up by Seneca. So if there are 15 miles of property depreciation, you have records in your county records of property devaluation in that circle of existing farms already in the county. And there are farms in the county and we don't see that depreciation. And one of the reasons the setbacks are there, that quarter mile and half mile, are to establish a buffer zone outside of that circle. So if you're a mile away, the dissipation of that odor becomes less and less and less and less. And really, not that it will ever not smell, but by choosing the incorporation and injecting that soil and incorporating that manure into the soil, the University of Illinois has studies that it will reduce that manure application odor by up to 70% versus being on top of the ground. That research is out there. There is sure opposing research, and I've seen the negative research that property values drop 90%. This is not a lagoon, it's a deep pit that's covered by the building. A lot of that data for property value is based off of open lagoon air type of stuff. So if you're reading those studies, you can make your own decisions, but you've really got to compare apples to apples. And by the way, Illinois is number 1 in pork production. 20 years ago it was number 2. So we've lost that status.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Nick Anderson, I'm with the Illinois Livestock Development Group. We're a coalition of ag commodity groups, Illinois Corn Growers, Illinois Farm Bureau, Illinois Soybean Association, pork, beef, and milk. And we want to grow the livestock industry because we are the corn growers' #1 consumer of feed.
So let me ask you this, do you plan on growing that industry all at everyone else's help and at their expense?
We have not experienced that health decline. Those data that you can sure bring it to the table, but right here in Livingston County, we do not have a health crisis with livestock.
There's hundreds of lawsuits that where the pork industry has
I can
paid
come
out.
back to Livingston County, and we have a great example here of public health with a lot of hog farms and cattle farms for that matter too.
You got a hog farm in your backyard?
My family does.
So you live on a hog farm?
Sure, I grew up my whole life. And
Do you live on a hog farm?
Today I do not.
Okay. So you get to go home and smell fresh air?
Actually, I go home to my parents and smell fresh air.
I'm asking you, when you go to your home this evening, do you smell fresh air?
I do, and I have a hog farm 4 miles away, and
Okay.
it has not affected my property.
4 miles, yes. Not
It's not
1 mile.
15, and it's not 15.
Not 1, 4. That's
Correct.
the reason why we're all sitting here tonight.
And if you can do air quality studies and show
You're
me-
welcome to do that. We've done those studies, when you get outside that setback, that those are
I think you should do those studies, I think you should be.
They exist.
I think you should be I think you should be mandated to do those studies. Why should the
We
residents?
could go on forever, I mean, it's,
So you talked about how much pigs drink.
I don't wanna cut people off, I don't wanna be rude, and I understand concerns. I don't live on a farm. I wish the city of Pontiac could do something about a couple of my neighbors that I don't particularly like the look and whatever. But the fact is, the regulations surrounding, whatever you wanna call them, these livestock, it's in the hands of the state. And I think I'm reading between the lines, they meet the state requirements.
But it's my understanding we
Now,
have.
ma'am, let me finish. Your only recourse is with the state. I guess to get those requirements changed or to challenge this particular application. We can't help. Now, I can give you the name and addresses of your state legislators. And my experience after almost 40 years in local government is, if you want to change anything in Springfield, you have to do it through your legislators. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm not saying it's easy, but you got to deal with people that make the rules, and we don't. We don't make them, we don't enforce them. Your energy and your facts and your arguments and everything belong in Springfield. And I'm not promising you success, believe me.
And I know
But-
this is a battle that our senator is trying to change right now as well with the hog farms. But, you know, with the petition, I do believe it's the beginning grounds, and correct me if I'm,
Yeah, we're entitled to a public hearing once we've reached 75 signatures. We're well over 100, closer to 200.
we're over 200.
Over 200, so we're entitled to a public hearing on this
Petition
issue.
sent it to Springfield.
Yeah, we can take the petitions and
Well,
send them to
we
Springfield.
take your petition,
Brought it with you?
but we're not gonna promise anything because of the threshold of them setting public hearings and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to take the petition, we'll send it to Springfield, but it's kind of up to them to decide if they're gonna do any public hearings because of the number of thresholds and stuff like that, so.
And then, I'm sorry, if you gentlemen could just address his concern as well, just so it just didn't come from me, but as far as the property value and taxes.
If we would address the property value,
He had asked about property value going down and taxes, and I know in our research, that's something that we've seen that happens.
I don't know that we have that capability to address property value.
I don't know if it's ever been researched in Livingston County. I mean,
Without going with somebody who has that expertise. I don't have that expertise, and Chuck don't.
Well, there's a lot of things that affect, I understand the concern. And I'm sure that both sides of the question can cite examples of where property values have gone down and where they haven't, or maybe have increased. But I also know enough about property values, it's more than your neighbor and what they're doing. Believe me, if a bad neighbor, bad property would lower my property values, they would be down today. So it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't know that there's enough livestock farms of this size in Livingston County that there's good data available. I mean, you could identify them and you can go to the assessor's office and get the records. I'm not promising you're gonna find anything that helps you, but.
To your point, I help a farmer that we farm right next to a very large hog farm, and it's injected all the way around us. And at times it's so bad that my eyes water, I can't hardly get out of the tractor. In the tractor, it's in the combine, it's okay, when I get out, it's not. So I understand what you're saying. I guess what happens is it's taken out of our hands by the state, and they make the decision on whether it can happen or not.
I got one more thing I'd like to interject that is in your hands. I've been told by both of them that the reason why they're not building the hog farm at their home farm was due to the roads, correct? You both told me that.
I don't know.
Okay, so they're building this hog farm on a road that's not capable of handling the traffic. The Class 3 stops at Missile Road. We can all agree with that. So you're planning to use a road for something that it was not constructed for. So why not use the gravel road that you live on, Brian, or tar and chipped, to where we don't, you're gonna spend a lot more money repairing a blacktop road than you're gonna spend repairing his tar and chipped road. So the point that they're saying that they can't build it due to the roads is not a fact, because they're building it on a road that is not made to handle the traffic or the weight that they plan on using it for.
The county has given us a 73,280 pounds, 73,280 pounds in the springtime. All roads are 80,000 unless otherwise posted.
It is posted, it says Class 3 stops right here, Missile Road.
And so that'll be 73,280. In the springtime, it'll be 73,280.
Did you talk to County Highway for that?
Yes.
Did you need any special permit? Are they
There
gonna
is
issue a seasonal
a yearly
permit?
permit. There's a permit you get every year that permits you in and out, you know, up to 73, 280 pounds.
But it's an 80,000 pound road.
But you were denied that permission at your home.
Township can't do it.
Because we spoke with the township and he said, the road commissioner there said that you never spoke to him about it. He's never heard anything about you wanting to use that road. So it just raises concern to all of us that are gonna get the effect of it, because you both will be living south of the farm. The wind doesn't blow out of the north 10 days a year here in Illinois. So neither of you will have to smell it.
If it was so great, why wouldn't you put it next to your house?
I wanted to.
That's the reason.
That was my first choice.
Please do it.
We can't.
Get us the permit to do
And
it.
so
You get us the permit to do it.
So we'll talk to the township, all of us will help, we'll talk to the township.
Roger and I has never denied it.
Actually, there's other requirements. So when they talk about putting it there, they have to meet the Department of Agriculture requirements for setbacks from neighbors,
There are
properties.
no neighbors.
There's no
There's
neighbors,
no
they have.
neighbors.
They're the neighbors.
Hold on a second.
What about south of his house?
One of you guys.
That's not a neighbor.
If you go on the other side, be far enough away.
Do you have a copy, another copy of this petition?
Yes, I do.
You should probably take it to your township and make sure that you, the highway department, but I'd go to my township road commissioner and I.
Well, he signed it.
He signed it. He signed the petition. His name is on the petition.
There
We
wasn't
need to
one
save down
person that we
talking about
approached
the
that
situation with the
wasn't
road.
against this.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's not true.
And
Yeah, I can tell you a couple of people that talk.
Delete.
Not from
Okay.
us.
I have one more question. You stated that when you take the waste out of your pit to apply it, that it's all gonna be pumped. I mean, is there at any point in time, because you have, if you're gonna economically apply it, those fields are gonna be, only be able to take so much. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to ever spread that radius out, where you're gonna have to actually put it in tanks and spread it out that way.
There's enough continuous ground there that we wouldn't have to.
What about in the winter?
They're using a drag, they're gonna use a drag line. A drag line, there'll be a pump
So
that'll pump it
you
from
don't have
the
easements
pit
that need more ground.
2 to 3 miles
They'll have
down the
neutral
road.
management plan.
I understand that, but I've never seen anybody get by with just pumping it using the lines. Most of the time, they have to put it in.
And you'll pump it in the fall, I assume.
I've
Yes,
seen
after
one
the crops
farm
are harvested.
get by with just using.
Farm. And then they also have the scheduled visit, they are mandated to inspect a certain amount of farms every year. So I don't know exactly their protocol. I don't, typically EPA isn't one of those agencies anybody likes, but, so they have a protocol that you can sure talk to them about, what is their policy to do that. But most of their farm visits are driven by something's happened, they investigate, and they find out if there is an environmental challenge, and then either penalty or they have the enforcement rule to enforce the Clean Water Act.
And there'll be testing every 3 months also.
Okay.
There'll be a tile around the pit that has to
I
be.
think everybody had a chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any review of 2019 departmental budgets?
Now let's go back to the.
Solid waste.
Solid waste, I already marked that off.
We're not going there yet.
I see.
Okay, you got a series of reports in regards to this. The first one has to deal with the comments that came from Deegan and Associates, and on the first page you're just getting, the new ones are the first couple of reports that are in regards to that. Basically, there's some new, well, the first one has to do with them seeking to increase their temperature operating value of the gas wells in regards to that, and then give you a map of how they're doing that and how they're be compensating, how the other wells compensate each other in regards to those particular issues. And the 530 is just field monitoring data in regards to some of the temperatures and everything that came up in regards to that. So they did tabulate that, and you have some of the past results of their entire investigation of that. Going further into that report, at the back page, it's all in some landfill. That's all in some landfill, gives you your entire report. The next set of documents you have, which is the June 7th document, looks like this. This is the follow-up document from when they did the split well testing in Streeter for the wells in Streeter in regards to that. So they did split test them, and then they kind of give you the indication that they did not find anything that was abnormal. If you do look, they did take a longer look in regards to the issues that came up with the oils or the hexanes in regards to that. And if you look at the next document, which is the synopsis document from myself, in the second page, which addresses the Streeter area landfill, those issues were addressed with some more information that went into the state of Illinois with some of the more detailed laboratory data sheets in regards to that, and in that particular case, that was not being detected. So the follow-up test, it indicated that was not being detected at that particular time. While we're still on that page, the July 2nd date in the middle of that particular page, in regards to the groundwater review, found that there was phenolics were found in exceedance in 3 of the wells in regards to that. Some of those are man-made, some of them are natural occurring, depending from a plant or from a resin. And then the methane was again high in X309. Again, we're supposed to do a report in regards to that at the end of the year. On the same page and attached to this and handed out to you, did get some copies of the post-fee reports that were submitted to the treasurer, copied to my office. So you have the information on that. The post fees and the amount of waste coming into the Livingston landfill did increase a little bit over the last year. In summer, a little bit more waste is generated. Going to the top page of the landfill document synopsis, the first one is, again, where they're kind of requesting that they have some higher operating values for the gas wells from the temperature of 131 to 145. At one time, the whole landfill had an operating temperature of 146. So if they're just asking that a certain number of wells be raised to 145, EPA is asking that individual wells be raised. In this case, it's EW84A is what's going into that. The next one had to deal with kind of a follow-up from their year-long to a year from the beginning of the year, February to date, of their construction season of the wells at the landfill, in which they're proposing of abandoning 18 of the landfill gas collectors. If that goes back to some of the maps that you had in front from the diggings, where there's less gas being generated and the surrounding wells are compensating, pulling off the gas from those areas. So they're going to be abandoning those 18 wells, and 23 of the wells, while they're there, were re-drilled, and that those gas collectors will now be more efficient in providing more efficient coverage in order to do that. If you go down a couple notes to the bottom of that, there's a June 25th date. There is a document out there from Weaver Consulting in regards to a SIGMOD in regards to the landfill gas collection system. I did not get a copy of that document. I'm going to be receiving a copy of that document soon. I've requested it and I'm receiving it. I know it's out there. As forgotten on that list, we'll be getting that. So in regards to all the gas issues that are listed there, Deegan Associates are reviewing all those issues. Go down to the third dated item coming down, which is the June 20th dated item. These are two of the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System reports. One was for the second quarter, one was for the month of May. They're fairly similar. They did clean out some inlet pipes in regards to that, and they did have some silt on some of the terraces on parcel D that they removed. Those terraces be the outflows you see on the corners generally, where they have the planted bricks that are blocks that are in there that act as controlling the water coming out the top of the landfill in order to do that. That leaves the two from the bottom, which are the two June 27th ones. And the top one from the bottom is where CEC Consulting provided copies of the private well sample results on a quarterly basis. They do the sampling out there. They do sample some of the private wells in that area, and they did sample some of those and all those walls did not indicate that there was any health-related issues in regards to the sampling results that they did take. And then the last one is the methane monitoring results. This is for the methane walls that act as perimeter walls around it, and they did look at them and look at them in regards to that. So that's, and there's no methane detected around the perimeter, and they did test that in regards to that. They corresponded back and forth with the landfill a little bit in the last couple of days, and they at one time had planned on doing an open house in August, and they decided not to do an open house this year. They don't do them every year like they did in the past. They decided to skip this year's open house, so we'll not be doing that open house this year.
Did they have one last year?
They did.
Yeah. Well, rats, I was gonna go. It's on my calendar.
Sorry. Well, if you'd like to go, we can arrange a tour for you.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Okay, if you want a tour, we can make it happen. So,
Yeah. I'll try and go this time.
You wanna go? Gonna try to work in your schedule?
I meant to go last time and I forget what I came. So did I, but I was going on vacations.
No.
It's a big hole with.
Well, we can go next week then.
I'd like to see that. No, we're going in August.
We'll go by next Thursday.
Yeah, you would pull that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
and yeah, that's fine. We can work on it. If we get a common date, we can work on that. It's not, they could not drive you around and give you
Okay.
what's going on with that. So, yeah, kind of pickup truck tour.
That'd be better anyway, because it'll be unrehearsed on both sides.
That's fine.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Any other questions on the landfill, or landfills, I should say, at this point in time?
Do you wanna, where do you wanna put in the bills?
It's the end of the agenda, if you want to do it now, it's fine too.
Any other issues to come before the committee?
Budgets. Get back up to the budget.
Budgets, oh yeah, let's get back to
This is the month where we request to do the budgets. I gave you copies of them. These aren't quite formalized yet, but you do have the budget amounts in regards to that, of all my different departments of solid waste, the zoning board of appeals, the planning commission, and emergency